بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم والحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على رسول الله وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين وبعد. So this is lesson number 12 from the Believer's Handbook for Qur'an Memorization. And inshallah today we're going to continue on with the second part because we didn't finish Habit 5 because it's a longer chapter. So the last class we went over the hadith about in the last days that there will be from among this ummah that people were like لَيَكُونَنَّ مِنْ أُمَّتِي أَقْوَامٌ يَسْتَحِلُّونَ الْحِرَّ وَالْحَرِيرَ وَالْخَمْرَ وَالْمَعَازِفِ. So that there will be from amongst this nation people in the last days that will make like fornication and improper sexual relations halal, and they'll make the wearing of silk halal. They'll make alcohol halal, and they'll also make al-ma'azif, and ma'azif is the musical instruments. So this is the hadith that we read at the end of the last lesson. So inshallah, this is where we're going to continue, is on page 35 from the first paragraph after the hadith. The Prophet ﷺ mentioned first the making of fornication as lawful. We see this nowadays with Muslims in the West and the unlawful marriages they get involved in. A person will give a brother a fatwa telling him that he can bypass the father as the wali because the father does not agree to the marriage. The brother takes this corrupt fatwa and carries it out. His marriage is then invalid. And we see this all the time. Oh, the father doesn't want me to marry his daughter, and we really love each other. Why do y'all love each other? How do y'all love each other? How do y'all love each other and the father hasn't even agreed that y'all get married? Where does this love come from? Where is this? Where is it? Because y'all been going behind the father's back the whole time. So why would the father want to marry his daughter to a fool like this, who's sitting there trying to manipulate his daughter and trying to get his daughter to go against the wishes of her own father, the man who raised her, the man who spent all his life supporting this girl, her whole entire life, feeding her, clothing her, getting her everything. And this idiot's going to come along and say the father's wrong and try to manipulate this man's daughter. And we see this all the time. This is nothing new. It's nothing new. Allahumma salam. And so after that, I said the brother takes this corrupt fatwa and carries it out, and his marriage is then what? Invalid. It's invalid. You bypass the wali. You can't go set up a wali. This isn't Walmart. This isn't like a all-you-can-eat Chinese buffet. Like you go out and just choose what you want and how you want. This is a deen of Allah. Again, we have laws in this religion, legislation sent down by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to his messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam. We don't need these idiots running around trying to give these fatwa. These are fools. These dudes have never studied a religion in their lives. And if they did, they're just people who follow their desires. Allahumma musta'an. We also see this with the midnight marriages and the Walmart bathroom marriages that people do with the sole purpose of seeking enjoyment with the girl and then tossing her to the side once he is finished. And these are the marriages that are done without the wife's knowledge, and where they go and they just marry the woman with the whole intention of just basically enjoying himself with her for like a week or two and then divorcing her. And basically it's no difference between this marriage and the marriage of the Rafidah, where they do the mut'ah. And because the whole intention of this marriage is not to remain with the girl. And how did you have the intention of remaining with the girl and you're too scared to even tell your wife? What type of cowards are these people anyways? Are they so scared that they got to run around and get married to these girls but in secret without their wives knowing? Because they're cowards. They're scared of the women. So how are you going to have, the Prophet ﷺ said, about the women, if they have control, they have authority. He said, لَن يُفْلِحَ قَوْمٌ. لَن يُفْلِحَ قَوْمٌ. Like they will never have success. These people will never have success. Who? وَاللَّوْ أَمَرَهُمْ إِمْرَأَةً. Who put in a woman in a charge of their affairs. That these people will never find success. And this hadith is reported on the authority of Abu Bakr, and it's in Al-Bukhari. So okay. These are the people that the Prophet ﷺ will never have success. They say they will never have success, that they put a female in charge of their affairs. Now, what about these so-called Muslim du'at that are supposed to be leaders of the community that are afraid of these women, that are afraid of them, scared to even say, oh, I'm going out to take a second wife. He's got to run around and manipulate women and manipulate the situation and do all this. This is batil. This is, like I said, this is a bunch of clowns acting like Shia. I like the Rafidah. This is not from this deen. It's not this type of behavior is not Allah musta'an. This wouldn't even be accepted in any of the religions of the world if the person was deemed as being religious, that this type of behavior would not be accepted, especially not in this deen, because this is the truth. This deen is the truth. If it's not going to be accepted amongst anybody else, then how is it going to be accepted in Islam? And Islam is the truth. And we know that Islam came from Allah. And we know that this is the final revelation to all mankind. How are you going to sit here and justify this type of crackhead behavior amongst the Muslims? Allah musta'an. Allah musta'an. These are the so-called celebrity sheikhs of the da'wah. The celebrity sheikhs and the sheikhukh. Allah musta'an. Y'all go look that word up in the dictionary, inshallah. Said, there is no difference between, he said, we also see this with the midnight marriages and Walmart bathroom marriages that people do with the sole purpose of seeking enjoyment with the girl and then tossing her to the side once he is finished. There is no difference between these marriages and what the Rafidis do. There's no difference between these marriages and people picking up prostitutes. May Allah protect us from falling into this corrupt, deviant behavior. And obviously, I'm being exaggerative because picking up a prostitute and committing fornication with her is way worse than having a secret marriage and not telling your wife. Bila shak, it's way worse because you're fornicating. And in this case, if there's a shubhat, then the person really thinks that what he's doing, then it's not considered a fornicator, but he's getting as close to it as he can possibly get to it without doing it. So Allah musta'an. The Prophet ﷺ did mention the wearing of silk. He is speaking about the wearing of silk for men. We have seen more than that nowadays. We see Muslims wearing earrings, necklaces, and bracelets permissible for men to wear. We see Muslims with earrings, Muslim men with earrings, necklaces, everything, nose rings. Akhi, what type of, seriously. So, Allah musta'an. I mean, silk, if it was only relegated to the only silk, that would, it's bad, but it's not as bad as all the other, like silk and all the other stuff that you see. You see, Allah musta'an, you see it all nowadays. You see everything nowadays. I said, since I've been back in America, I've seen more Muslims wearing necklaces and earrings than I've ever seen. I was shocked when I came back, because back in the days when I started practicing the deen in the 90s, Muslims moved away from that stuff. If you were a Muslim, you had an earring as a man and you became Muslim, you took that stuff out. You took it out. And then when you start learning the sunnah, you're not wearing no jewelry. You're not walking around with necklaces and earrings and Allah musta'an. But this is what it's come to. This is what this world, and this because why? And these are the same dudes that running around with these bathroom marriages, scared of their wives. Allah musta'an. And these are the people that control our communities. The Prophet ﷺ mentioned alcoholic drinks. We see this among the Muslims a lot now. In fact, a lot of the liquor stores are owned by so-called Muslims. I think every single liquor store in the neighborhood I live in here in Fresno, California, is owned by Yemenis. If it's not Yemenis, it's owned by another. It's going to be somebody from the Arabs that claims to be Muslim. All of these liquor stores, every single, like when I first got to Fresno, one of the first khutbahs that I gave, there was a shooting at the liquor store. It's owned by Yemenis. It's owned by Yemenis, right after the khutbah. Like I was coming out the khutbah and one of the brothers was running back because he was trying to take somebody home and they passed by that store. I don't think they were passing by. I think he was, not giving me the whole truth, but I think he was probably there. And somebody rolled up on him and just started shooting up the parking lot, trying to hit some guy. And it's right after the khutbah. And those dudes weren't in the khutbah, they were in the liquor store. So, we see this a lot nowadays, all over the place. A lot of the liquor stores are owned by so-called Muslims. Weed has been made halal among the Muslims that love to follow their desires, as I already mentioned previously. And the same thing. All the smoke shops in Fresno, California, owned by Yemenis. And in fact, they'll even put like Yemen smoke shop. They'll literally put it that it's owned by Yemenis. No haya. وَلَا يَسْتَحْيُوا عَلَىٰ أَنفُسِهِمْ أَبَدًا. Like this is what happens. They come to the Bilad al-Kuffar and now they feel like they could do whatever they want to do. That the laws of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, they don't apply to them here. That they only apply to them in Yemen because they never cared about Islam in Yemen. They only cared, their fear was a fear of the people. So they stayed in line because they were afraid of people. And they were afraid of they obeyed their customs. They didn't obey Allah. So then when they come to America, what do you expect from these people? What do you expect them to do? You expect them now to become the most religious people? No, they're the ones that own all the liquor stores, all the smoke shops are owned by Yemeni so-called Muslims. And I say so-called Muslims because there's a lot of, I don't even think most of these dudes even pray. So, I mean, I'm not even going to say that they're Muslim. I'm just so-called, like that's what they call themselves. And Allah knows best what they really are. All right, weed has been made halal, and we see this all the time. I mean, being out in Fresno, California is the only time in my life I've ever smelled weed in the parking lot of a masjid. I come out of the khutbah after giving the khutbah, and I can smell the weed in the parking lot of the masjid. You know, and this is the only time. I've never been to a masjid where this has happened. And I've been to masajid all throughout America. But this is the first time that I've ever experienced this in my whole entire life. And this is the first time where like Muslims were just openly smoking weed with no concern. Even when I was in Atlanta, like, you know, the youth used to smoke weed, but they used to leave the masjid, go 2 blocks over to somebody's house, and they would smoke in front of that house of that person. They wouldn't smoke in front of the masjid. They wouldn't go into the parking lot of the masjid. And you know, even anywhere around the masjid, you wouldn't see nobody smoking weed, not a Muslim. And if you saw a kafir smoking weed around the masjid, he'd probably get beat up. You know, so Allah musta'an. That was Atlanta back in the days. The final thing the Prophet ﷺ mentioned was that these corrupt Ruwaybidah will make musical instruments halal. We have seen this more than we have seen the other things that the Prophet ﷺ mentioned. Yeah, I mean, the Prophet ﷺ mentioned the silk. He mentioned the fornication, but they're not saying that fornication is halal. That's not what they're doing. Is like they're gonna make it. They're gonna try to give shubahat to make it like like these marriages where they make it like the marriage is halal, but it's not. So the people fall into fornicating without knowing. And this we do see a lot, but not as much as we see the musical instruments. The alcohol, the silk, and all this other stuff that we see. Yeah, we see this a lot, but not as much as the music. The music is probably the biggest of all these problems, the most widespread. The most widespread. And the thing is that the music opens the heart up to the acceptance of all those other things. The alcohol, the drugs, the fornication, and all this stuff, the music opens the heart up to accepting those other things. Because again, it cultivates hypocrisy in the heart. And once the heart becomes, that seed of hypocrisy has been planted, and it's planted through the music, then khalas, everything else, it starts, if you don't accept it, like you don't do it, but you won't get angry when you see other people. Like you start to accept, oh, it's normal, it's okay, it's he's living his life, just leave him alone. This you start to have this type of foolish attitude. So Allah musta'an. These things become halal when people put their desires at the forefront. They are not looking for the truth. They are looking to satiate their corrupt appetites. Allah said about these people in the Qur'an, أَفَرَأَيْتَ مَنِ اتَّخَذَ إِلَهَهُ هَوَاهُ وَأَضَلَّهُ اللَّهُ عَلَى عِلْمٍ وَخَتَمَ عَلى سَمْعِهِ وَقَلْبِهِ وَجَعَلَ عَلى بَصَرِهِ غِشَاوَةً فَمَنْ يَهْدِيهِ مِنْ بَعْدِ اللَّهِ أَفَلَا تَذَكَّرُونَ. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said in the Quran, He said, have you not seen that man اتَّخَذَ, the person who takes ilahahu, that he takes as a God, hawahu, his own desires, because his ibadah here, his worship of his desires is through obedience, that he obeys his desires over the obedience to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. He has the choice to obey Allah and be from the Ashab al-Yameen, or to obey his desires and to be from Ashab al-Shimal, and he chooses to obey his desires. So this is worship. Because obedience is worship. When you obey Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, that is worship. When you obey something other than Allah and the things that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has prohibited, then that's worship. So this is a serious issue. It's a very serious issue, and it's nothing to be taken lightly. And this is how they take their desires as a God that they worship, because their desires legislate for them. And they obey that legislation. They leave the legislation that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has legislated and sent down to his final messenger, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and they obey their desires. So this is their worship. And then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, وَأَضَلَّهُ اللَّهُ عَلَى عِلْمٍ. And then this tafsir, I don't think I mentioned the different meanings of this tafsir. But it has 2 meanings. I didn't mention, I don't think I mentioned it in this book, but just to go over it quickly, وَأَضَلَّهُ اللَّهُ عَلَى عِلْمٍ, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala leaves him astray, عَلَى عِلْمٍ, with knowledge. It has two different statements from amongst the people of tafsir, from the mufassirin. So some of them say that وَأَضَلَّهُ اللَّهُ عَلَى عِلْمٍ, it means that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has left him astray after knowledge has come to him. Like he's not ignorant of the issue. He knows that it's haram, and then he chooses to follow his desires, and then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala leaves him astray. And then another one, the statement of the Mufassirin is that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, he leaves him to stray ala ilmin indahu, like knowledge that he has about the person, that this person is not going to accept the guidance, that he's going to choose the desires. And both of these statements are true, because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has prior knowledge. And the person, obviously, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is going to punish the person after the truth is what? After it's come to him with knowledge. Once the knowledge has come to him and he knows it, all these Yemenis that have these alcohol stores, if you ask them, is khamr halal? They're going to say, no, it's haram. Why are you selling it then? If you have these smoke shops and you ask them, is weed halal? Do y'all think, no? Why are y'all selling all the stuff that the people smoke it in? Why are you facilitating all this for the people? You're selling the rolling papers and the pipes and the bongs and all this type of stuff. Why are you doing that if you think it's haram? Why are you facilitating it? So they know it's haram. So they have knowledge of it. It's not that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is going to punish them on jahl. You know, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said in the Qur'an, He said, من اهتدى فإنما يهتدي لنفسه ومن ضل فإنما يضل عليها ولا تزر وازرة وزر أخرى وما كنا معذبين حتى نبعث رسولا. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, من اهتدى, whoever follows the guidance, فإنما يهتدي لنفسه, he's following the guidance to what? For the benefit of his own self. Allah benefits nothing from us following or not following this guidance. This guidance is for us to follow. And we're the ones that benefit. Whether we follow it or not, it doesn't change anything for mulki Allahi ta'ala. You know, it's like anything in the dominion of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala does not change. His kingdom remains the same. It's us that's going to, if we reject it, then we're going to suffer. He said, وَمَنْ ضَلَّ فَإِنَّمَا يَضِلُّ عَلَيْهَا. And whoever is misguided, who chooses misguidance, then he chooses misguidance. It's only to the detriment of his own self. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is not harmed by anything. Like if you leave off this guidance, you're not harming Allah, you're harming yourself. وَلَا تَزِرُ وَازِرَةٌ وِزْرَ أُخْرَى. And one person who commits a sin, like one person will not be held accountable for the sin of another person. And then the shahid here is, and this is a part of the ayat that's pertaining to this issue, وَمَا كُنَّا مُعَذِّبِينَ حَتَّى نَبْعَثَ رَسُولًا. And we were never to punish the people until we sent a messenger to them. So once that knowledge has come to the person and the person rejects it, that's now when punishment becomes open. It's like open for him now, because before he might have had an excuse with ignorance, but now once that knowledge comes to him, there's no excuse anymore. So Allah musta'an. So then after that, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, وَخَتَمَ عَلَى سَمْعِهِ. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala places like a cover, like a khatam. It means like basically, it just seals it up, like a seal over his heart, where like nothing of khair is going to enter into his heart. It's sealed up. You know, it's like, just like something will become waterproof, this becomes like iman proof. Now, iman will not come into his heart. Nothing from khair will come into his heart until that seal is taken away. And that's when the person makes tawbah and returns to the obedience of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. He said, وَجَعَلَ عَلَى بَصَرِهِ غِشَاوَةً. And he puts over what? It places a cover over their sight. And this cover over their sight, it means that they don't see the guidance. So once the hearts become sealed, they're not able to feel it, to perceive it, you know, to accept it. And once their eyes become covered from the truth, they're not able to see it and recognize it. So if this is the case with the person, he's blind in the heart and blind in the eyes. This is al-ama wal-amah. So the two blindness, the blindness of the heart and the blindness of the eyes, where is he going to go? Well, you know, and that's why Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said after that, فَمَنْ يَهْدِهِ مِنْ بَعْدِ اللَّهِ. Who's going to guide him after Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has left him like this? After he's gone and taken his desires as a God to be worshipped beside Allah, and Allah has left him like this, who's going to guide him? And he's got no perception. His heart is sealed and his eyes are covered. أَفَلَا تَذَكَّرُونَ. Will you not, you know, ponder and think deeply about this? Think deeply about this. So this is, Allah musta'an, this is not a joke. This is not a joke. Allah also mentioned that what happens to the people that follow those that follow their desires. So this is for the people that follow those that follow their desires. In the following ayah, وَإِن تُطِعْ أَكْثَرَ مَنْ فِي الْأَرْضِ يُضِلُّوكَ عَنْ سَبِيلِ اللَّهِ إِن يَتَّبِعُونَ إِلَّا الظَّنَّ وَإِنْ هُمْ إِلَّا يَخْرُصُونَ. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, وَإِن تُطِعْ. If you were to, and this is here majzoom because it's a shart. It's sharat. All right, so this is and this is the first part of the sharat when tuti'. If you were to obey akthara man fil ard, if you were to obey the majority of the people on the earth today, yudilluka an sabilillah, that they will misguide you from the path of Allah. Because the majority of the people are on misguidance, they're on deviance, they're on falsehood. The true believers are always going to be in the minority. When you compare the whole world and every single country that you find believers in, they're the minority in the Muslim countries. So what about the whole world? What about Russia, China, America, and all these other countries that just, the countries of the kuffar? So he said, when تطيع أكثر من في الأرض يضلوك عن سبيل الله أن يتبعون إلى الظن, that they don't follow anything except for dhann, for assumptions. They're false, and the false assumptions, because you have a dhann al-rajih and you have a dhann al-marjuh, and they follow the dhann al-marjuh. The dhann al-rajih is that you assume something, but there's like Qur'an, there's like things that will make you to say, I'm not sure, but I'm like 85, 90% positive that this is the truth, and it probably is, and that's what you call a dhann al-rajih. Adhan al-marjuh is the one that it's very clear that this is wrong. It's the wrong assumption. It's completely wrong. It's the wrong opinion, and it's been proven that it's wrong through the evidence. But this is what they follow. They follow those assumptions. They follow these false assumptions. When hum illa yakhrusun, and they don't do anything but just tell lies. They tell lies about Allah and His Messenger. They spread lies about the Deen of Allah. They spread lies to justify their corruption and their falsehood and their deviance. Then after that, I said, the people of desires cause nothing but corruption and misguidance, and they should never be listened to nor obeyed. However, not everybody is afflicted with the fitna of music. Some people just waste their time listening to useless podcasts or other nonsense to be found on YouTube. Whatever the case is with a person, he should focus on switching out the habit of listening to other than the Qur'an to listening to the Qur'an, especially if he wants to memorize it. One of the most important benefits of listening to the Qur'an is that it aids in the memorization. Listening to the Qur'an constantly causes the speech of Allah to get stored in the long-term memory of a person. When this happens, memorizing the Qur'an becomes so much easier. I think most adults that grew up around music can even remember lyrics to songs they heard as a child or teenager, and I can attest to this. I lived when I was in Damaj, song lyrics will pop up in my head all the time. Stuff that I had, just from listening to songs so many times, and then you're out in the middle of the desert, no electricity, nothing, and your mind's just running on full blast all the time. And I used to remember so much stuff. I used to remember songs from when I was 6 years old, just like songs that just used to come on the radio, and I could still remember the lyrics. Now imagine if we were raised up hearing the Qur'an like that all the time. Just imagine, that's what's going to be popping in your head all the time is ayat from the Qur'an. That's what you want. That's what you want. You don't want these lyrics popping in your head. You want to get that stuff to stop popping up in your head. So he said, one of the most important benefits of listening to the Qur'an is that it aids in the memorization. Listening to the Qur'an constantly causes the speech of Allah to get stored in the long-term memory of a person. When this happens, memorizing the Qur'an becomes so much easier. I think most adults that grew up around music can even remember lyrics to songs they heard as a child or a teenager. Sometimes lyrics will pop in my head from songs that I heard 30 years ago. That is because I heard the song so much that it was stored in the long-term memory, so it is not easily forgotten. You now must do that with the Qur'an. And that's the thing. You have to replace it. Because people are going to say, well, what would I do? You replace it. And you keep pushing that stuff out. You keep storing more and more Qur'an and more hadith and more speech of the Salaf. And you start to just pile this stuff into this benefit, this fawaid. You pile it into your heart, and that's going to force all that other garbage out. It's going to force it out. And that's the only way. There's no doubt. There's nothing. This is probably one of the best pieces of advice that I can give myself and give you all is that you have to, whenever you do it, like you're listening to the Qur'an when you're driving, listening to the Qur'an when you're going to bed at night, maybe put on a surah or a juz or something that you're memorizing and listen to it as you're falling asleep, whatever. I love to just back in the days, I did this a lot more than I do now because, as you get older, I guess you want to sleep with less, I don't know how to explain it, but I used to take whatever surah that I was memorizing and just put it on repeat. So I go to bed listening to it and wake up listening to it. And then, whatever. If you're a person that goes out and runs in the morning or gets on an exercise bike or something, put the Quran on and listen as you're doing these things. And just keep listening. Like, take the thing that you're listening. Like, the best thing that you could do is like have a time where you're listening to what you're memorizing over and over again. But then you have another time, like, for example, if you're a person who likes to run or it does like, exercise like that, where you can actually focus. Because obviously you're doing like push-ups, pull-ups. You're not going to be focusing on listening to the Quran. But I'm talking about where you can actually exercise but still listen. Like when you're running or you're riding an exercise bike or doing something like that, then you could just play the Quran from beginning to the end. I mean, obviously you're not going to do that in one workout, but every workout you play, like, if you work out for like an hour, so you're going to like listen to like 1 hour every day until you complete the whole entire Musaf, and then you start again. Now, if you keep doing that every day that you work out, imagine throughout the year how many times that you finish listening to the Quran. And then on top of that, you're reading the Quran every day. You're memorizing the Quran every day, and then you take the books of tafsir and you're reading tafsir and you're trying to understand the Quran every single day. This is the way to get that Quran, to get it like just like a stamp in your heart, to have it like etched into the walls of your heart. This is the way to do it. I don't know of any other way. Any other way, Allah musta'an, I don't know it. You have to go find somebody else if you want another way. The best way, you listen to it all the time, you read it all the time, you're memorizing and revising it all the time, and you're reading the tafsir and then you're reading the sunnah to understand it. I don't know of any other better way than this. Allahumma musta'an wa ilahuna subhanakallahumma wa bihamdika ashhadu an la ilaha illa ant astaghfiruka wa atubu ilaik.